Here's some basics about getting a college wrestling scholarship nowadays. Just a few facts. Back in the 70s, there was 250 or so Division I college wrestling programs. Now, in 2018, there are 79. The wrestling has never been more difficult and competitive, especially I've noticed this the past 6 to 8 years. It just seemed to have exploded. Whereas we could have kids who I thought were very good go in and win the national tournament and the senior nationals. Now, even our freaks aren't doing it. Some are. It's just very difficult. So the competitiveness of wrestling nationwide has soared. The opportunity has dwindled. It's a buyer's market. So that brings me to another point. Remember, colleges only have 9.9 scholarships. Now, this does not include NAIA, which is not NCAA wrestling. NCAA wrestling is Division I, II, and III, and junior college. They have strict rules and guidelines. The most scholarships they can have total in wrestling is 9.9 scholarships for their entire team. So if 40 guys are on the team, and let's just pretend that 5 of the men on the team have a full scholarship or a full ride. That means there's only 5 scholarships for the other 35. So it's very difficult. Getting a full scholarship is very difficult. Now, if you have a great grades, you can supplement that because they can give you academic aid that doesn't come out of their college wrestling athletic budget. So getting, you might be able to get a 15% scholarship through the wrestling area, and you might get another 30% through academics if you have very good grades. So now you're at a 50% scholarship, which is great. Another thing to keep in mind is simply that due to Title IX, there are now roster limits at a lot of schools. That means there's too many male athletes on campus, so they have to kick some of them off. So I know 2 Division I programs near me just went to a roster limit, which is terrible. So where it used to be, your son can say, the hell with it, I'll walk on. I want to wrestle at your college. I'll pay my own way. I want to be a part of the team. It's called a walk-on. Can't do that nowadays at some of these schools because the athletic director says, we have too many athletes. You're over roster limit anyway. Years ago, we had a kid wanted to walk on at the University of Wyoming, and I was told by the coaches, we're over our roster limit. We're trying to get rid of some guys who are on lower scholarships who are not necessarily panning out. And some of the other sports are now restricted as to who they can have because the whole men's athletic department has to bring down these numbers. There's too many. We have too many boys doing sports on our campus, which I think is kind of tragic if they want to walk on, right? Who cares? But due to Title IX, there is, I believe this is under the proportionality clause. And I have a mom, I have a sister, I have a wife, I have a daughter, so I'm pro girls sports. But this is something that I think is terrible, and it's costing a lot of these boys a chance to walk on. So walking on is not even an option nowadays. And plus, when the school's under a roster limit, you have to understand that if your kid maybe is borderline and they say, man, I think we spend some time. People say this kid is a diamond in the rough, or he has a great upside. They're not going to give you a chance. They can't roll the dice because if they have a roster limit and they have a limited number of spots, they can only take on 4 guys next season. They want to make sure that those 4 guys are going to make it 100%. So now they're going to just not roll those dice and throw out 10 or 20% scholarships to the so-called up-and-comers. They're going to try to sell hard, just like a business. Some of them, they say, Mercedes says, we're not going to lower our prices or standards. We're just going to sell harder, right? And so that's what they do. They sell harder, and they try to get a better athlete or wrestler, a more accomplished wrestler who is ready to go out of the box and try to get that dude to show up for less money than what everyone told him he's worth. So that's sort of where you're at as well. How do you navigate all of this? Well, it's very difficult. Nowadays, if you want to wrestle at some of the top Division I colleges, you almost have to be a top candidate. So I would encourage you to double and triple down on your dedication, double and triple down on skill development. That means get better. Don't just worry about working hard. I just get so sick of people saying, my son works hard, he should be winning more. No, he shouldn't, right? You got to work hard on the right stuff. Work hard, right? If you're studying hard for a math test and everything you're studying is not on the test, you are wasting your time. You're spinning your wheels. Why not just get you need to get a plan that says, what's the best way to get strong in America? What's the best wrestlers in America? What is their weightlifting plan? Go get it. And if it costs you $20, or what if it costs you $100? Oh, I can't afford it. Oh, well, you eat McDonald's 3 times a week, you know? That's 30 sodas. You drink 30 sodas a month, you know? So no, that weightlifting plan's $100. It's not expensive. It's only going to cost you 30 Coca-Colas. Go do it, right? Find the best training program out there and get on it, right? Start drilling the positions that are common to wrestling and the techniques that you need. Study, find the top 5 sports psychology books because you likely choke in big matches. Why don't you read a nutrition book, right? You're starved to make weight and you go out there and you wonder why at the end of season your wrestling isn't very good because you're starving to death. So become a master at cutting weight and watching your weight and nutrition. Become a mental game warrior where your mind is always ready. Your emotions are in check. Become a wrestling dynamo. Learn the core skills of wrestling in all the main positions of the sport. Become extremely powerful on the wrestling mat by following the best strength and conditioning program. Probably can't play 4 sports, right? You probably can't do fall baseball, spring baseball, select soccer, take gymnastics lessons, play water polo, and then wrestle, and then, wonder why John Smith isn't recruiting you. You might be able to, but probably not. You might need to narrow down your focus a little bit, right? You can say, people say, oh, there's all these multiple sport athletes who are having success. They always point to the football player. I know football players that will go 8 months. They don't even physically don't touch a football. Their fingerprints haven't been on a football in 4 months. They lift weights and do footwork drills. Try not jumping on a balance beam for 8 months. Try being a bodybuilder and not lifting a weight for 8 months. Try being an MMA fighter or a wrestler and not wrestling, right? I can't imagine a bodybuilder taking 8 months off and then showing up in November for the bodybuilding competition. They get laughed off the stage. But then they wonder why they don't win the state title 3 months later, and how come a famous college coach isn't knocking on their door with a $100,000 bag of money. Because you're not ready. You're skinny, right? You're not a monster. Bodybuilders have to be monsters. They don't take 8 months off. I'm not telling you not to take a couple weeks off here and there. I'm saying in a raw sport, maybe even sprinting. If you're a freak athlete, you can probably take 8 months off. Do a little stretching, do a little footwork, go win a national title in sprinting. You're not going to do that in a skill sport. Olympic diving, wrestling, MMA, boxing, bodybuilding, which is obviously a high sets and reps sport. So I think you need to really understand and maybe adjust your goals. Adjust your goals for your commitment level. And if you're not committed to year-round pursuit of being a famous college wrestler, that's okay. If you want to play 3 sports or 2 sports or 4 sports, that is perfectly fine, but yet you shouldn't expect, a college coach if he doesn't win, he gets fired. His son and daughter don't eat food if he gets fired. So yes, you're a piece of meat. You have to be very, very, very damn good before he'll recruit you. And I think it's time for some of us just to understand that, with the limited numbers of athlete spots out there due to various reasons, it really might be time to double down and, get crazy serious about becoming successful in wrestling, because there's just not a lot of opportunity out there. Good luck. Take this advice. It will serve you very well because it's the truth.